Invited to a luxury family dinner, I was ordered to sit at the kids' table while my younger married siblings dined as adults. So I walked out and the celebration unraveled in a way my parents never expected. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. My sister Emma is 30 and married with 2 kids. My brother Jake is 28, married with 1 kid on the way. My youngest brother Tyler is 26 and just got married 6 months ago. Growing up, I was always the responsible one. I had good grades, never got in trouble, helped with the younger kids, and worked part-time through high school and college. My parents always treated me like the built-in babysitter and homework helper, but somehow never quite saw me as an actual adult with my own life and achievements. Meanwhile, my siblings got away with everything. Emma barely graduated high school, got pregnant at 22, and has never held a job longer than 6 months. Jake dropped out of college twice before finally finishing with a communications degree he's never used. Tyler spent his early 20s partying and living off my parents before suddenly deciding to get married to a girl he'd known for 8 months. But here's the thing that's always driven me crazy. The moment each of them got married, they were suddenly treated like mature adults deserving of respect. Emma became the family expert on everything the moment she popped out her first kid. Jake's opinion started mattering the second he put a ring on his girlfriend's finger. And Tyler, who literally moved back in with our parents after college and stayed there until his wedding day, is now treated like some wise patriarch because he has a wife. Me? I'm still just good old reliable single Sarah, who clearly hasn't figured out her life yet. I've built my consulting business from nothing into something that lets me work with Fortune 500 companies. I own a 3-bedroom house in a great neighborhood. I travel internationally for both work and pleasure. I have a robust social life, volunteer with local literacy programs, and I'm genuinely happy with my life. But because I haven't found the right person to marry yet, my family treats me like I'm somehow incomplete or immature. The dinner invitation came via a group text to all us kids. Mom was planning what she called a sophisticated family dinner to celebrate Tyler and his wife Melissa's 6-month anniversary. She specifically mentioned it would be elegant and adult-focused since Tyler was really coming into his own as a married man. I almost didn't go. These family gatherings have become increasingly uncomfortable for me over the past few years, but Tyler's actually my favorite sibling, even though he's the youngest. And I thought maybe this time would be different. Maybe they'd finally treat me like the adult I am. I should have known better. I showed up at my parents' house dressed nicely in a black dress and heels, carrying a bottle of expensive wine for Tyler and Melissa. The house was decorated like they were hosting a dinner party for important guests. Mom had used her good china, lit candles everywhere, and even hired a catering service instead of cooking herself. This was definitely the fanciest family dinner we'd ever had. Emma and her husband Brad were already there with their kids, 7-year-old Lily and 5-year-old Mason. Jake and his very pregnant wife Chelsea had arrived just before me. Tyler and Melissa were dressed like they were going to a country club. Everyone was mingling in the living room with cocktails. "Sarah," Mom exclaimed when she saw me. "Oh good, you're here. Can you help me with something in the kitchen?" I followed her to the kitchen where she was fussing with appetizer platters. "This looks amazing, Mom. You really went all out." "Well, Tyler deserves it. He's really become such a mature young man. Marriage has been so good for him." She paused, giving me one of those looks. "You know, honey, Melissa has a brother who's single, very successful lawyer. Maybe we could arrange—" "Mom, please. Not tonight." I'd heard variations of this conversation 100 times. My successful single life apparently reflects poorly on her as a mother. "I'm just saying you're not getting any younger. Emma was already married with 1 baby by your age. Don't you want what she has?" I looked through the doorway at Emma, who was letting her kids run wild through the living room while she ignored them and complained to Chelsea about how tired she was. Her husband, Brad, was already on his 3rd beer, and it wasn't even 6 p.m. yet. "I'm happy with my life, Mom. Can we please just enjoy tonight?" She sighed dramatically. "Well, I suppose. Oh, I need to tell you about the seating arrangement. I've put a lot of thought into this to make it special." Something in her tone made my stomach drop. "Okay. Well, since this is such a sophisticated dinner, I've arranged the seating to be appropriate. The adults will sit at the main dining room table, and you'll be at the little table in the breakfast nook with Lily and Mason." I stared at her. "I'm sorry, what? It's perfect, really. You're so good with children, and this way the married couples can have adult conversation without the kids interrupting. I've already set your place." My face went hot. "Mom, I'm 32 years old." "Oh, don't be dramatic. It's just seating. Besides, someone needs to watch the children so the adults can enjoy their dinner. The adults? I felt like I'd been slapped. My younger siblings, who I'd helped raise, who had come to me for advice throughout their teens and early 20s, were adults while I was relegated to the kids' table like a teenage cousin. Where exactly are you planning to seat everyone else? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Well, your father and I will sit at the heads of the table, of course. Tyler and Melissa will sit on one side, Emma and Brad on the other, and Jake and Chelsea across from them. It'll be perfect for adult conversation about marriages and careers and future plans. I had a master's degree in business administration and ran my own company. I'd been financially independent since I was 24. I owned property and paid taxes and voted and had a 401k, but I wasn't married, so I got demoted to children's table supervisor. And what if I don't want to sit with the kids? I asked quietly. Mom looked confused, like the thought hadn't even occurred to her. But who will watch them? Then I suggest one of their parents do it. You know, the people who are actually responsible for them. Her face hardened. You're being very selfish right now. This dinner is important for Tyler and Melissa. You're right, it is important, which is why you should probably focus on actually including your family instead of treating one of your children like hired help. I walked back into the living room where my siblings were all chatting and laughing with their spouses. The kids were now jumping on the furniture while Emma scrolled through her phone, completely ignoring them. Tyler was telling some story about his new job that had everyone's attention. I looked at the dining room where Mom had indeed set a beautiful table for 8 adults. Then I looked toward the breakfast nook where 3 play settings sat at the small round table normally used for quick casual meals. A children's placemat with cartoon animals sat next to my regular plate. The symbolism was hard to miss. I walked back into the living room and quietly approached Tyler. Hey, can I talk to you for a second? Sure, what's up? I pulled him aside. Did you know about the seating arrangement Mom planned? He looked confused. What do you mean? She wants me to sit at the kids' table with Lily and Mason while all of you sit at the adult table. Tyler's face went through several expressions before settling on uncomfortable. Oh, I didn't know the specifics, but she did mention something about you helping with the kids during dinner. And you were okay with that? He shifted uncomfortably. I mean, you are really good with them, and it's just one dinner. Just one dinner. Like this wasn't part of a pattern that had been building for years. Tyler, I'm 4 years older than you. I know, but... He trailed off, clearly not wanting to say what we both knew he was thinking. I wasn't married, so I didn't count as a real adult in the family hierarchy. Right. Well, congratulations on your 6-month anniversary. I hope you have a wonderful dinner. I walked back to the kitchen where Mom was putting finishing touches on the appetizers. Mom, I need to head out. She looked up startled. What? But dinner's about to be served. I told you you're sitting with the children. Yes, you did tell me that. Which is exactly why I'm leaving. Sarah, don't be ridiculous. Someone needs to supervise them. Then I suggest one of their parents do it. You know, the people who are actually responsible for them. Her face hardened. You're being very selfish right now. This dinner is important for Tyler and Melissa. I walked back through the living room where everyone was still chatting. No one seemed to notice I was leaving. I grabbed my purse and the bottle of wine I'd brought. Sarah, Tyler called out as I reached the front door. Where are you going? Home. Enjoy your sophisticated adult dinner. Wait, but you haven't eaten yet. I turned back to face the room. Everyone was now looking at me. I wasn't invited to eat with the family. I was invited to be the unpaid babysitter, so I'm declining. Emma finally looked up from her phone. What's she talking about? Mom wanted me to sit at the kids' table while you all had your adult dinner, I said calmly. The room went quiet. Jake shifted uncomfortably. Brad took another drink. Chelsea looked confused. That's kind of messed up, Tyler said quietly. Is it? I asked. Because none of you seemed to have a problem with it when I mentioned it to Tyler 5 minutes ago. Mom came bustling out of the kitchen. Sarah, stop making a scene. It's just seating arrangements. It's not just seating arrangements, Mom. It's how you see me, how this entire family sees me. I looked around the room. I have a master's degree. I own my own business. I own my own home. I pay my own bills. I've been completely independent for almost a decade. But because I don't have a husband, I'm somehow still a child who gets relegated to supervising other people's kids while the real adults have dinner. Now you're being dramatic, Mom said. But her voice lacked conviction. Am I? Emma dropped out of college and has never held a steady job. But she gets treated like an adult because she's married. Jake bounced between majors and jobs for years, but he's worthy of adult conversation because he has a wife. Tyler lived with you until he was 26, but suddenly he's mature enough to sit at the big kid table because he got married. What exactly have any of them accomplished that I haven't besides finding someone willing to marry them? The silence was deafening. That's not fair, Emma said weakly. Isn't it? When's the last time anyone in this family asked about my career, my travels, my goals? When's the last time anyone treated my opinions as valid? But I'm supposed to be grateful for the opportunity to watch your kids while you all discuss your marriages and your futures, because apparently I don't have one worth discussing. Lily chose that moment to run over and tug on my dress. Aunt Sarah, are you coming to eat with us? I knelt down to her eye level. Not tonight, sweetie. But you be good for your mom and dad, okay? But who's going to sit with us? Mason asked, appearing beside his sister. Your parents will take care of you. That's their job. I stood back up and faced my family one more time. I'm going home. When you decide you'd like to treat me like the adult I am, feel free to call me. I walked out the door and drove home, hands shaking with anger and hurt. I'd been dealing with this dynamic for years, but having it made so explicit, so deliberately insulting was more than I could take. I got home, changed into comfortable clothes, ordered Thai food, and opened a bottle of wine. I turned off my phone and watched Netflix on my couch in my house, surrounded by my things in my life that I'd built entirely by myself. Around 9 p.m., I turned my phone back on to find 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. The first call had come from Tyler about 30 minutes after I left, then Emma, then Jake, then Mom, then Dad, then Tyler again. The pattern repeated for hours. The text messages were a journey. Tyler at 6:47 p.m. Hey, can we talk? Dinner was really awkward after you left. Emma at 7:03 p.m. Okay, I talked to Mom about what happened, and I think there might have been a misunderstanding. Jake at 7:15 p.m. Dude, Mom is freaking out. She says you ruined Tyler's dinner. What happened? Mom at 7:22 p.m. Sarah, you embarrassed me in front of Melissa's family and ruined Tyler's special dinner. Call me immediately. Dad at 7:35 p.m. Your mother is very upset. I think you owe everyone an apology. Tyler at 7:41 p.m. Look, I'm sorry about the seating thing. Can you just call Mom back? She's crying and saying the whole dinner was ruined. Emma at 7:58 p.m. The kids kept asking where you were. Mom had to sit with them and she was not happy about it. This made me laugh out loud. So, when Mom had to actually parent her grandchildren during dinner, suddenly the seating arrangement was a problem. Jake at 8:14 p.m. Chelsea says what Mom did was messed up, and she's right. But can you please just call back so we can fix this? At 8:23 p.m. I cannot believe you would be so selfish and inconsiderate. Do you have any idea how hard I worked on this dinner? Dad at 8:31 p.m. Sarah, your mother spent all day preparing this dinner for the family. The least you could do is call her back. Tyler at 8:47 p.m. Melissa feels really bad about this. She says if she had known Mom was planning to make you sit with the kids, she would have said something. Please call me back. Emma at 8:52 p.m. Okay, so I might not have fully understood what happened before, but Chelsea explained it and wow, that was really messed up, but Mom is like really upset. Jake at 9:01 p.m. Can you please just call someone back? Mom is talking about driving to your house. That last message prompted me to finally respond. Me at 9:03 p.m. Do not come to my house. I'll call Tyler in 10 minutes. I called Tyler, who answered on the first ring. Thank God. Look, I'm sorry about what happened. I honestly didn't realize how messed up the whole thing was until after you left. What exactly happened after I left? Tyler sighed. Well, Mom expected you to come back, so she kept waiting to serve dinner. When it became clear you weren't coming back, she completely lost it. She kept saying you embarrassed her in front of Melissa, and that you ruined our celebration. And what did you say? At first, I was just trying to keep the peace, you know. But then Melissa asked me to explain exactly what happened. And when I told her about the kids' table thing, she was horrified. She said if her family ever did something like that to one of her siblings, she'd walk out too. Interesting. Tyler's new wife had more sense than his entire birth family. So, what happened with dinner? Well, Mom had to sit with Lily and Mason since Emma refused to leave the adult table. And the kids were being kids, you know. They were loud and messy and kept interrupting. Mom was getting more and more frustrated, especially because Lily kept asking where you were and why you left. And? About halfway through dinner, Melissa asked Mom why she thought it was appropriate to treat you like a babysitter instead of a family member. Mom got defensive and said someone had to watch the kids. Melissa pointed out that their parents were literally sitting right there. I was starting to like this Melissa. Then what? Then Emma finally said, "Maybe one of them should sit with the kids instead." And Mom completely lost it. She started crying and saying that you had ruined everything and that she'd worked so hard to make this dinner special. Chelsea pointed out that maybe if she'd included you in the dinner instead of treating you like help, you wouldn't have left. Good for Chelsea.
Yeah. And then Jake said he never really thought about it before, but
It was pretty messed up how you always get treated differently because you're not married. Dad tried to defend Mom, but honestly, even he seemed to realize how bad it looked. So, what's the situation now? Tyler was quiet for a moment. Mom wants you to apologize for embarrassing her and ruining the dinner. Dad thinks you should just call her and smooth things over. Emma and Jake think Mom owes you an apology, but they want everyone to just move on and pretend it didn't happen. And what do you think? I think Melissa is right. What Mom did was really messed up and you had every right to leave. I also think I should have said something when you told me about it instead of just going along with it. This was more self-awareness than I'd ever heard from Tyler. Maybe marriage really had matured him. I appreciate that. So, what do you want to happen now? I want to be treated like an adult member of this family, instead of like the family disappointment or unpaid babysitter. I want my accomplishments to be acknowledged and valued. I want my life choices to be respected, even if they're different from everyone else's. That seems reasonable, does it? Because based on the messages I got tonight, it seems like everyone thinks I'm the problem for not just sucking it up and sitting at the kids' table like a good little single woman. Tyler was quiet again. No, you're right, and I'll talk to them. Melissa already said she's going to say something to Mom next time she sees her. We talked for a few more minutes before hanging up. I felt slightly better knowing that at least Tyler and his wife understood why I'd left, but I wasn't holding my breath for any real changes. I didn't call my parents back that night, or the next day, or the day after that. By Thursday, the calls had intensified. Mom had left 3 voicemails, each one more frantic than the last. In the first one, she was angry. By the third one, she was crying and begging me to call her back. Dad left a message saying I was being stubborn and hurtful and needed to think about the family. Emma sent a long text about how the kids missed me and didn't understand why I wasn't coming around anymore. Jake called and left a message saying he'd been thinking about our conversation at Christmas last year when I'd mentioned feeling excluded from family stuff and he was starting to understand what I meant. But it was Tyler's text that finally got to me. Melissa and I want to take you to dinner this weekend, just the 3 of us. She wants to apologize for not speaking up during the dinner planning, and I want to apologize for not having your back when I should have. Would Saturday work? I agreed to dinner with Tyler and Melissa. We went to a nice restaurant downtown, and I immediately understood why Tyler had fallen for her. She was smart, funny, and had clearly been thinking a lot about what had happened. I have to tell you, she said after we'd ordered. I was absolutely mortified when Tyler explained the seating arrangement to me. In my family, that would never happen. It's been a pattern for a long time, I admitted. I just finally hit my limit. Tyler told me some stories about growing up, and I can see why the way he described it. You basically raised him and his siblings while your parents treated you like a living nanny. Tyler looked uncomfortable. I never really thought about it that way, but yeah, that's kind of what happened. Sarah was always the one helping us with homework, driving us places, mediating our fights with Mom and Dad. But the minute each of you got married, you suddenly became the adults in the family while Sarah remained the responsible child. Melissa continued. It's honestly bizarre. It is bizarre, I agreed. And what really gets me is that none of my accomplishments seem to matter. I've built a successful business. I own my home. I'm financially stable. I travel. I have great friends. But because I haven't found a husband, I'm somehow still seen as immature and irresponsible. Which is crazy, Tyler said. You're literally the most successful person in our family. This was the first time any of my siblings had ever acknowledged that. So what can we do to fix this? Melissa asked. I honestly don't know if it can be fixed, I said. This isn't just about one dinner. It's about years of being treated like I'm less than because my life looks different from what my parents expected. Tyler was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, I've been thinking about this a lot since Saturday night. I think Mom has this idea in her head about what success looks like for women. And since you don't fit that model, she doesn't know how to categorize you. So, she categorizes me as a failure. Yeah, basically. And I think she's doubled down on it because admitting she's wrong would mean admitting she's treated you unfairly for years, which she has. Melissa reached across the table and squeezed my hand. For what it's worth, Tyler talks about you all the time. How proud he is of what you've accomplished. How much you helped him when he was younger. How much you've taught him about work and life. You've had a huge positive impact on his life. I felt tears prick my eyes. Thank you. That means a lot. I want you to know that going forward, Melissa and I are going to make sure you're treated fairly at family stuff, Tyler said. No more kids' tables, no more being voluntold to babysit, no more dismissive comments about your life choices. I appreciate that, but I don't need you to protect me. I need the family to actually change how they see me. Then that's what we'll work on. We had a good dinner, and I felt hopeful for the first time in days. Tyler seemed to genuinely understand the problem, and Melissa was a good influence on him. But I still didn't call my parents. Friday morning, I got a call from an unknown local number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Sarah, this is Melissa's mom, Carol. I hope you don't mind that Tyler gave me your number.
I was confused. No, that's fine. Is everything okay?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Melissa told me what happened at your family dinner last weekend, and I'm calling to invite you to our family dinner this Sunday. Melissa thought you might like to see how a family dinner should go. I was touched, but also hesitant. That's very kind of you, but I don't want to impose. You wouldn't be imposing. We'd love to have you, and I think you might enjoy it. We actually treat all of our adult children like adults, regardless of their marital status. The gentle shade in that comment made me laugh. I'd love to come. Wonderful. Tyler has our address. Come around 5 and don't bring anything but yourself. Sunday dinner with Melissa's family was a revelation. They had 4 kids ranging in age from 26 to 34. 2 were married, 2 weren't, but all 4 were treated with equal respect and affection. Carol and her husband asked about everyone's careers, hobbies, travels, and goals. The conversation was lively and inclusive. No one was relegated to children's duty, and when Melissa's brother's kids got restless, both parents took turns handling them. I felt more valued and included in that one dinner with strangers than I had in years of family gatherings with my own relatives. When Tyler dropped me off at home afterward, he said, "That's what family dinner should look like, isn't it?" Yeah, it really is. I'm going to talk to Mom and Dad this week. This has gone on long enough. Monday morning, I finally decided to check the family group chat that I'd been ignoring for a week. I had 67 unread messages. The progression was fascinating to watch. It started with Mom complaining about me ruining Tyler's dinner. Then Emma and Jake weighing in with tepid support for both sides. Then Tyler defending me. Then Melissa joining the chat, apparently Mom had added her, and politely but firmly explaining why what happened was inappropriate. Then things got interesting. Chelsea, Jake's wife, chimed in supporting Melissa. Then Brad, Emma's husband, made some comment about how he'd never thought about it. But I always did seem to get stuck with kid duty at family events. Then Jake admitted he'd been thinking about it and realized how unfair the family dynamics were. The most recent messages were from Saturday night with Mom asking why no one was responding to her anymore, and Dad saying the whole family was falling apart. I scrolled back through and read the entire conversation. By the end, Mom was isolated in her position that I owed everyone an apology, while Tyler, Melissa, Chelsea, Jake, and even Brad were all saying she owed me one. Emma was notably quiet through most of it, only chiming in occasionally to say she thought everyone should just forgive and forget. I decided not to respond to the group chat, but I did call Jake. "Oh, thank God," he said when he answered. "Are you okay? No one's heard from you all week." "I'm fine. I just needed some space to think." Look, I owe you an apology. Chelsea made me go back and think about every family gathering for the past few years. And she's right, you always get stuck dealing with the kids while the rest of us get to relax and socialize. That's not fair. Thank you for saying that. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized how dismissive we've all been about your life. Like, you have an amazing career, and you travel to all these cool places, but we never really ask about any of it. We just assume you're not as fulfilled as us, because you're not married. I'm glad you're starting to see it. Chelsea wants me to ask if you'd come to dinner with just us sometime. She says she wants to hear about your business and your travels, stuff we never talk about at family dinners.
I agreed to that as well. It seemed like the conversation was actually sparking some genuine reflection in my siblings.
Tuesday evening, Tyler called to warn me that Mom and Dad were planning to show up at my house. I tried to talk them out of it, but they're convinced you're just being dramatic, and that if they can corner you in person, You'll apologize and everything will go back to normal. When are they coming? Probably tomorrow evening. Dad said something about stopping by after work. Okay, thanks for the heads up. Wednesday evening, right on schedule, my parents showed up at my door. I saw their car pull into my driveway and took a deep breath before answering the doorbell. Sarah, Mom exclaimed, as if she was surprised to see me at my own house. We've been so worried about you. Hi, Mom. Dad. Dad looked stern. We need to talk. Okay, come in. We sat in my living room, and there was an awkward silence while they looked around. They'd only been to my house a handful of times since I'd bought it, and they always seemed surprised by how nice it was. You have a lovely home, Mom said, as if she was just noticing it for the first time. Thank you. Another silence. Sarah, Dad began, we're here because this situation has gotten out of hand. Your mother worked very hard on that dinner for Tyler, and walking out the way you did was hurtful and embarrassing. I see. And what part of the evening do you think I should have handled differently? Mom jumped in. You should have just sat where I asked you to sit and helped with the children. It was one dinner. You completely overreacted. So, you still think it was appropriate to seat me at the kids' table while my younger siblings sat with the adults? It was just practical, Mom insisted. Someone needed to watch Lily and Mason. Why didn't Emma and Brad watch their own children? Because they deserve to enjoy their dinner without having to worry about the kids. And I didn't deserve to enjoy my dinner.
Mom looked frustrated.
It's different. They're married, they have responsibilities and stress at home. You don't have those same obligations. There it was again. Because I wasn't married, my time, comfort, and dignity were less important than my married siblings. Mom, I want you to think carefully about what you just said. You think Emma and Brad deserve to enjoy their dinner without having to parent their children, but I didn't deserve to enjoy my dinner at all. Instead, I should have been grateful for the opportunity to provide free childcare while the adults had real conversations. You're twisting my words, am I? Because that's exactly what you arranged. You invited me to a family dinner and then excluded me from the family part while expecting me to work the entire time. Dad jumped in. Sarah, you're being dramatic. It was just one evening, and you've turned it into this huge thing. It's not just one evening, Dad. It's a pattern. When's the last time either of you asked about my work, my travels, my goals? When's the last time you treated my opinions as valid? They both looked uncomfortable. When's the last time you were proud of me for something other than how well I handled watching other people's children? Silence. I can tell you when. It was when I graduated college 11 years ago. Since then, every family conversation has been about Emma's kids, Jake's marriage, Tyler's latest adventure, and what I'm doing wrong by not being married yet. That's not true, Mom said weakly. Isn't it? Last Christmas I mentioned that I'd been invited to speak at a conference in London. Do you remember what you said? More silence. You said, "That's nice, dear," and then immediately changed the subject to ask Emma about potty training. I had been invited to speak to 500 business executives about strategy consulting, and you dismissed it in favor of discussing toddler bathroom habits. Mom's face was getting red. I didn't mean to dismiss you. But you did, just like you've dismissed me over and over again. And then when I finally stood up for myself, your response was to demand that I apologize for being hurt. Dad shifted uncomfortably. Look, maybe we haven't been as attentive as we should have been, but you embarrassed your mother in front of Tyler's new wife. That wasn't okay. You're right, Dad. It wasn't okay. What wasn't okay was Mom planning a seating arrangement that would humiliate me in front of Tyler's new wife. What wasn't okay was treating me like hired help instead of like your daughter. What wasn't okay was dismissing my feelings when I tried to express them. So, what do you want from us? Mom asked, tears starting to form in her eyes. I want you to see me as an adult. I want my accomplishments to be acknowledged. I want my life choices to be respected. I want to be included in family conversations instead of being assigned babysitting duty. And if we do that, will you forgive us for the dinner? Mom, this isn't about one dinner. This is about years of being treated as less than. If you can genuinely change how you see me and treat me, then yes, we can rebuild our relationship. But if you're just looking for a quick apology so everything can go back to how it was, then no. They left shortly after that, saying they needed to think about what I'd said. I wasn't optimistic about real change, but at least I'd said what I needed to say. Thursday morning, I got a text from Emma asking if we could talk. I called her back during my lunch break. I've been thinking about what happened, she said without preamble, and I think I owe you an apology. Oh yeah, The more I think about it, the more I realize how often you get stuck watching Lily and Mason at family stuff, and I just let it happen because it was easier for me. I appreciate you saying that. I also never really thought about how differently mom and dad treat you. Like when I got married, suddenly my opinions mattered to them in a way they never had before. I just assumed everyone got the same treatment when they hit certain milestones. But I've hit plenty of milestones. They just weren't the ones mom and dad were looking for. Exactly. And that's messed up. Your business is amazing, your house is beautiful, you travel to incredible places, you've accomplished more than any of us.
But because you're not married, it's like none of it counts.
This was the most insight I'd ever heard from Emma. What made you start thinking about this? Honestly, Chelsea, after you left the dinner, she was really upset about what happened. She said it reminded her of how her family used to treat her oldest sister, who's also single. She made me realize that I've been complicit in treating you unfairly. I'm glad you're seeing it now. I want to do better. And I want to make sure Lily and Mason understand that Aunt Sarah is not their automatic babysitter. They need to learn that adults deserve respect regardless of whether they're married or have kids. That would mean a lot to me. Also, I'd love to hear about your business sometime. I don't think I've ever asked you about it properly, and I realized I don't even really understand what you do. We talked for another 20 minutes about my work, and for the first time in years, Emma seemed genuinely interested and impressed. It was a good conversation. Friday afternoon, I got an unexpected call from Dad. I've been thinking about what you said, he began, and I want you to know that your mother and I have been talking. Okay, I want to apologize not just for the dinner but for how we've treated you over the years. You were right when you said we haven't been paying attention to your accomplishments or treating you like an adult. I was surprised. Dad doesn't apologize easily. I appreciate that. Your mother is having a harder time with it. She's always had very specific ideas about what makes a successful life for a woman.
And when you didn't follow that path, I think she didn't know how to relate to you.
So, she decided I was a failure instead of expanding her definition of success. Yes. And that was wrong of her and wrong of me for going along with it. What changed your mind? Dad was quiet for a moment. Tyler came over Tuesday night after you met with him and Melissa. He sat us down and explained some things about how we've been treating you. He was very direct about how unfair we've been. Good for Tyler. He also told us about dinner with Melissa's family, how they treat all their children equally, regardless of marital status. It made me realize how differently we've been treating you. And Mom, she's struggling with it. She feels like admitting she was wrong means admitting she's been a bad mother. But she's starting to see it. I hope so. Would you be willing to come to dinner Sunday? Just family, no formal seating arrangements, no expectations that you'll watch anyone's kids. I thought about it. Will Mom be able to handle treating me like an adult? I think so. And if she can't, Tyler and I will make sure she does. I agreed to come to Sunday dinner with the understanding that if anyone tried to hand me a child or dismiss my contributions to conversation, I would leave again. Sunday dinner was better. Not perfect, but better. Mom was clearly making an effort to ask about my work and actually listen to the answers. She still seemed uncomfortable with it, like she was reading from a script, but it was progress. Emma kept her kids at the table with her and Brad. Jake made a point of asking about my recent trip to Portland for a consulting project. Tyler and Melissa helped steer conversations toward topics that included everyone. The biggest moment came when Mom brought up Tyler and Melissa's plans to buy a house. In the past, this would have led to a long discussion about the importance of homeownership for young families with pointed looks at me about how I should find a husband so I could experience this milestone too. Instead, Dad said, Sarah can probably give you some good advice about the buying process. She's been through it already. It was a small thing, but it acknowledged that I had valuable life experience worth sharing. We're not completely back to normal yet, and I don't know if we ever will be. But for the first time in years, I feel like my family is actually trying to see me as a whole person instead of as their disappointing single daughter.